Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the pressures and like sort of the game theory around Ethereum because that's something that a lot of people have been wondering about. It's dropped a lot relative to Bitcoin. A lot of things have happened to it. It's been flirting at around the $100. Who knows if that will break? But I wanted to talk about just sort of like the pricing pressure that's being put on Ethereum. Now, as we know, Ethereum had a pretty crazy run last year, and I think it peaked at around $1,000 sometime maybe earlier this year. It might have been February or so. Anyway, it went all the way up to $1,000, and then it started its fall. And part of looking at that is what's causing it to come down? What's going on? I mean, they have a business or they have a model, right? Like the reason why people buy Ethereum is because they need to execute smart contracts, specifically ICO smart contracts. If you want to buy any ICO that's built on Ethereum, you need gas in order to execute that trade or that buy or whatever, or transfer or anything on Ethereum. You require some Ethereum in order to execute that smart contract. So that was a plan. It also was very convenient because people needed to buy Ethereum in order to get into those ICOs. So a couple of things that were going for it during its bull run were, you needed to have Ethereum in order to buy a lot of these ICOs. And you also needed Ethereum in order to execute, the smart contracts on Ethereum. Those were the rules. And all of the ICOs were ERC20 contracts at the very least. Some of them a little more complicated than that, notably like CryptoKitties or something like that. Anyway, all of them require Ethereum in order to run. So that was what was happening. So what's happened since then? Why has it dropped so much? Well, a lot of the Ethereum that was collected by these ICOs, well, they need to pay salaries. They also do a ton of marketing, and they needed to hire developers. They needed to do, maybe cash out a little bit. So a lot of that has been going on. And the game theory behind that is you don't want to be the last people to cash out, right? Like you need to be one of the first people in, during sort of like a run. And there's definitely been a run, right? Like as soon as, some of these wallets move, there tends to be some sort of drop or whatever. And these are sort of ICO, there are people very carefully watching these ICO addresses where, they collected a lot of that money. And if it moves, they're like, okay, all right, something's going to happen. And they want to front run that sell. But, that sell itself can also be a major event as well, because that's a significant amount of sell side pressure that's coming in. And again, you don't want to be, too late to that thing. It's like any market psychology. When things are dropping, you generally want to sell early, and you don't want to start buying until you've hit bottom. So we're getting into that psychology with Ethereum. There's a lot of ICOs that are coming out. Also, like Ethereum, we got to remember, has never really been through a bear market. Ethereum sort of launched in like late 2015, I think 2016, somewhere around there, and they've been going for a while. They've not really had a drop like this, and this is getting. I think it's close to or above a 90% drop. This is a major thing. And a lot of people have, they don't know if this is going to recover. Bitcoin's recovered multiple times. So there's some history to look back on and say, okay, well, it drops, but then it comes back. They're sort of hoping that's the case with Ethereum, but, the history of altcoins actually doesn't bode very well for Ethereum. Vast majority of coins that go up like that tend to drop and then just kind of go away. And now, of course, it wasn't at the time scale that Ethereum's had. And there are exceptions, I think, like Litecoin and some others. But I mean, like look at like something like Namecoin or some of the other ones that were popular, 5-6 years ago, they're like kind of nowhere right now, and that tells you something about what's going on here. I mean, a lot of these coins tend to be, sort of short-lived, and I really honestly wonder, like, if it's really just for an ICO, if it's really just an ICO platform, which I think Ethereum is, ICOs are drying up. We all know that, and the bear market has proven that it's extremely, like, $100 million raises were like very common like 12 months ago. Like, they're not getting that much money now, and who knows how much of it is like real in any case, because you can always deceive the wallet by like putting in your own funds or something like that and get it right back. So there's a lot of questionable things about Ethereum. I think those are all contributing to the tumble in Ethereum relative to Bitcoin especially, but almost everything else. There's a lot of ICO coffers that will continue to drain. As they get more pressure from the people that bought the tokens to put out a product. I mean, it took Augur over 2 years. I mean, I can't imagine that like a lot of these other projects are going to have anything out before them. But during that time, they need to hire a lot of people, and they need marketing support and all this other stuff in order to make it all go. So I'm kind of skeptical, as as you guys all already know. We'll see where everything leads. I wish Joe Lubin would complete that bet. He's just sort of like squelching on it, but we'll see, because he seems to believe that Ethereum is actually worthwhile and worth building on. I completely disagree, and I've given that the reasons for why many times. But anyway, hope that helps you. This song is done.